Jack Tomczak, that's Ben Cruzy.
Hello.
That's Kate Ness.
Hey.
Sorry.
Sorry.
And our big-time guest is Hennepin County Commissioner Jeff Johnson. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
All right, you got a piece here in the Star Tribune, St. Paul, which is the only reason I read that paper.
What is what?
Occasionally there's something from you in there.
No,
Thank you.
Yeah. The agreement with that or something?
St. Paul needs its swamp drained just as much as Washington. There's one in St. Paul too high on a hill, but just as foul. Let's take a good look at the cronyism of the Dayton administration.
FYI, they write the headlines. Mine would have been shorter and more pithy.
What would yours have been?
I don't know.
Well, you should have had that one prepared. Of course, we just have been talking about the
Dayton of corruption.
Sweet Ghazi Gate, where the Dayton administration gets free tickets, apparently, to anything that happens in Metrodome 2, the Deuce, and that's wrong. And they said that it's for marketing purposes. Then we get a list, and it's for marketing to friends and family, apparently, because that's who gets to go. But that is only the latest, and certainly not the only example in the Dayton administration of this kind of thing. Jeff?
Yes, well, and the whole point of this is we like to pride ourselves in Minnesota of being a good government state. I hear that all the time, and mostly you hear it from liberals and Democrats. This is a good government place, and it's the reason we elect DFLers is because they're about good government and helping people and not enriching themselves. And
I'm sure they know what's right.
This administration has a terrible history of essentially self-dealing might not be the right word, but cronyism and benefiting your political friends. And not by appointing people to positions. Every governor is going to do that. They're going to appoint people who supported them to their positions. But then actually monetarily paying them extra or giving them something special because they happen to be a supporter or a friend.
Now, Ben, you had stumbled a bit over Adam Dunnick's name.
Yes.
As we did when the first time we read it. So you might not be...
There's too many vowels in...
You may not be aware of this, but he was DFL bagman. He worked for the money-raising arm of the very impressive organization that Democrats have in the state.
So if you raise money, you get...
You get to be in charge of the Met Council.
In charge of stuff?
No. He's also the husband of Dayton's chief of staff, she was the chief of staff at that point.
Okay.
So there was a dual connection there. Not only was he just a longtime political hack, but he also married into the Dayton political world. And again, that alone, to say that he was appointed to an important position, well, all right, maybe he didn't fit the job. But at the same time, it went from a part-time position at $61,000 a year to a full-time position at $145,000 a year overnight with his appointment. And, maybe you could have made the argument that it deserved to be a full-time position, although no one had before. But certainly a more than doubling of the salary seems
And what was he
outrageous.
kissed into the raises, the across-the-board raises that the agency heads got and then didn't get and then got again? Did he get a raise out of that too?
No, I think that this happened at about the same time that was happening. So I don't think there was something on top of this.
I remember the argument about him being about the job being made from part-time to full-time and the pay increase. He argued that if he didn't get the pay increase, he would certainly still keep the job. He might have to work from home.
Oh, I remember this.
Because they got kids, man. His wife, who was making $121,000 a year, and him at $60, $180 a year, two people, a few kids. That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
I'd like that.
So yeah, he's just like us. Just like us.
So he was a fundraiser in the. There's like a network of Democrat and Dayton groups.
A BM is the activist.
So this is the Alliance for Better Minnesota, is the activist group, but there are other groups that
I can't remember
do
the name
fundraising and then distribute money to all these. It's fascinating, the coordination that goes on
no
the
experience
Democrat
with transportation.
Side.
Happy to be married to Dayton's chief of staff. Got the job, got a massive raise, and that's just one example.
Right.
So inexperience may be the reason they're $89 million short.
Hey, we hired the guy who didn't know what he was doing, and they were out of money.
So can I throw another example out? Because
keep rolling.
You actually already mentioned it, which is that Dayton gave all of his commissioners, including not just commissioners, his entire executive staff. It was like 50 different positions.
Wow,
huge
I didn't know it was that
raises. Yeah, I mean down to the IRRB head and just I think there were about 50 positions.
Stay out of the IRRB if we're going to be talking corruption. I don't know if we've got time.
And the raises were, in the 20 to 35% range. So they were huge raises. And what happened was he said, I'm just going to give all these people who work for me really, really big raises because they deserve it. They work really hard, much harder than the average person in Minnesota, apparently.
I guess so.
The legislature, including Tom Bach and DFLers, stepped up and said, no, we can't do that. That's, you want to give them a 3% raise? Fine. And so they fought him, and he said, okay, he was essentially forced because of public opinion to back off of it. And they had an agreement that said, going forward, the legislature has the power to increase your staff salary. You do not, but we're going to give you one day in like a month where if you really want to do some sort of increase for some of these people, go ahead and do it. So what did he do on that day? He gave all of them the same raise that he had proposed before. And
why wouldn't he?
Right.
Why give him the day?
And then
it was in his phone and alerted. Hey! Siri reminded him, increase those guys' pay.
He criticized all the DFLers as he often does. Whenever anybody questions him, he acts as though they live out in, outer space. And I don't remember what he said, but he's, essentially beyond the pale of reasonableness that you'd even question this.
Yeah. They're being ridiculous.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah, this is childish. This is just pathetic.
And so there's that. Minshew has got to be in here somewhere.
Yeah, the executives, the 14 executives got big bonuses at the end of the year while the whole thing was melting down. Not a year later, not a year before, but literally while it was melting down and people couldn't get insurance. And this is the board that he appointed, that Dayton appointed, gave all 14 of the executives large year-end bonuses at the same time, which is just ridiculous.
And also recently we have some pretty sweet severance packages were handed out to people who left his administration as well.
Yeah, and we weren't supposed to know about this one. This one was supposed to be a secret, and I don't remember how it was uncovered, but I think it came out in the Star Tribune, and at least three that we know of, where his commissioners resigned and weren't forced out. They just decided to do something else, and he gave them nice severance packages. And one of them got like over $30,000. Another one got $20,000, and then a couple of years later, he was appointed to head the IRRB. That's Phillips.
Yeah.
And then the last one was a woman,
Mark Phillips, one of the hucksters.
Yes, that's right. I remember the hucksters.
I was like, "Who's Dayton ripping on?" You, Jeff Johnson.
That's right. But the last one is the best one of all. He gave this big severance to a woman who had been in her position as higher ed chair or whatever for 8 months. And he gave her like $18,000 severance when she left. And this was all supposed to be under the cover of night, but it was uncovered, and it's just a perfect example of taking taxpayer money to benefit your friends.
Yeah,
and it's wrong.
Do you think is this a government problem, a Democrat problem, or is this unique to Mark Dayton, who does not live on the same planet as the rest of us? When you ran for governor, did you sell a Renoir?
I didn't.
I mean, he didn't have the same experience from birth to this point that the rest of us have. Is he just out to lunch?
Yeah, we almost had to sell the picture of the old guy praying, but we didn't. We had a standard.
Grace.
Yeah,
Grace.
The state picture. I voted on that. No, I think it is. I don't think it's just a Dayton or a DFL problem. I think it's a problem in government in general. But I tell you what, the examples I've been seeing lately have not been coming from the Republican side. They've been coming from the DFL side, and Dayton takes it to a new level. He almost seems proud of it.
Just to set the record straight, the story about Dayton and the nearly $80,000 of severance payments to three top officials was first reported by Tom Scheck at Minnesota Public Radio.
Good work, Tom Scheck. There's two things he's done well. The first one was Ben left behind a phone charger at an event. And
that's
Tom
right.
Followed us to the next restaurant or the lunch
Tom
and handed it.
Good guy.
So let me throw one more example from there in, and that we'll go back to the stadium board again. Mm-hmm. He essentially let one of there are 5 directors or commissioners.
Okay.
He let one of them go and refused to reappoint him because he was questioning why the chair of that board, Michelle Kellum-Helgen, his former deputy, Dayton's former deputy chief of staff that he appointed, and Ted Mondale, who's the executive director, are both being paid I believe over $120,000 a year, and they do exactly the same thing. Between them, I think they make almost $300,000.
Well, one's in charge of one suite, the other's in charge of the other suite.
I didn't think of that.
There's a lot of work to find that many friends and family to give tickets to for every event. I mean, that's a busy building.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then the last one. Can I throw in the last one?
I keep surprised there's more, but keep going. Yes.
There's one more in there, and that is Kessler just reported on it, I think, on the news tonight. It took 2 weeks for anybody to do anything with this, but the Dayton's Department of Employment and Economic Development has created a special dislocated workers fund for the DFL political campaign staffers who lost when their bosses were not elected on November 8th. They have a special fund for them.
What? That's
so okay. So there is a dislocated workers system when it comes to unemployment in this state, and if a large enough company ends up going out of business, and if you can organize enough people to take advantage of this, the state will pay for training and all sorts of things.
Okay.
So if anything, this is just really good organization. So, for instance, Cat Lady, when she lost her job, she was able to organize enough people so that people who lost their jobs at this company she worked at, non-politically affiliated, were able to take advantage of this displaced worker.
All right, so
it's not a bad program.
No, it's good. Yeah.
But it's not intended for people who take jobs that know that after the election they may
take
not
a political
have a
job. You know there isn't going to be a political job in November.
There's a start and end to this job,
right.
and it ends at the end of the campaign.
So I just need to organize. If I can just find one more person who lost his job in radio.
I think you need
one
50
more.
Yes, I have the story here from WCCO. Minnesota House Republicans are crying. I should do it with the news bed underneath it. Minnesota House Republicans are crying foul after DFL staffers on the losing end of the 2016 election were granted benefits from the state's dislocated workers program, which is normally used for mass layoffs from private companies. Some 50 to 60 DFL campaign staffers lost their jobs after the election, something that's not uncommon. I would contend that it is entirely common, but for the first time they've banded together to earn special status as victims of a mass layoff by Minnesota voters. So this is Pat Kessler reporting.
These are folks who work for the DFL House and Senate caucuses?
Yeah.
Like the campaign
I think that's right. Yeah.
end of things?
Yes. They're all campaign workers. They're organizers and fundraisers. One of them was their finance director.
Even if they had one, those people would be out of jobs.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So are you saying that if there is a group of mall Santas and and elves that they could band together in January and say, hey, we were all fired because they ended
or Minnesota
Christmas
Vikings
time.
At the end of December?
How dare you?
Every year.
How dare you?
Yeah. This
fascinating.
Doesn't make sense to me because these jobs were temporary no matter what, and the people hired should have known that, would have known that, and doesn't that mean you don't get to partake in these things?
It's never been done before, even though we've had this program for, I think, a few decades, because everybody understands that it's preposterous and it's outrageous, but it fits in with this trend of I'm going to take taxpayer money to try to help the people who are my buddies or who have helped me. And again, it's what is driving everybody crazy about government, and it's one of the reasons that Donald Trump won.
So seasonal employees can now get in on this.
Oh, hello.
Hey, sorry.
There's a girl here.
Seasonal employees now. So people with summer jobs, landscapers and everything who know that and they budget for that and they know that they're going to be out of work.
Who goes around shoveling driveways for people.
It's with a plow. Come on.
Yeah.
So
they've got a good thing going here now.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to watch now to see how they'll handle that because this thing could explode and there won't be enough money to
We got another
continue.
Gazigate.
Yeah.
Displaced worker program Gazigate.
These things, I would hope that anybody, at least on the Republican side that I know, if they were governor, would be embarrassed to do this kind of things in this list. Where's the shame? I mean, everybody who got caught with the ticket thing or Mark Dayton caught with the raises, it should have been, I am so sorry and embarrassed.
Right.
I quit.
And frankly, I am going to fire the two people that are heading this organization, and I'll put two other of my friends in there, but these two clearly are corrupt. And I've had lots of comments. Well, Pawlenty did it too, and my response is, Pawlenty wasn't perfect, but give me an example of something like this that Pawlenty did, because I don't know of any.
And all of these things that we weren't supposed to know about, the pensions and the severance and all that stuff that was found out somehow. There's got to be a ton of crap going on that we don't know about.
That's a good point. Yep.
Just ask him. What don't we know yet, Mark Dayton? We'll see if he tells us. Does he wear glasses that he thinks make him invisible when he does these things? Because it seems pretty bold, everything he's done, and there seems to be no shame. And when he does it, he acts like we're the crazy people when we question it. So I don't understand it, and I don't know why he gets away with it. If a Republican did these things, would they get away with it in this state?
Yeah, well, they shouldn't. I would hope not. Yeah. And I think that Republicans would call them out on it, as well as Democrats, or at least I hope they would.
Yeah. Yeah, not everything is partisan. Some is just right and wrong.
Right.
And it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're just stepping outside of the boundaries of what an executive office is allowed to do. I mean, we joked about it yesterday about, I'm not going to say this is Nixonian, but Nixon thought that if the president did it, it wasn't illegal.
Right.
There may be a case here where Mark Dayton thinks that if he decides to do it, he doesn't have to clear it with anybody.
Yeah. And what are the rules? And I've probably asked and have been told the answer to this already, but for setting pay within an administration, is that governed by statute or?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Well, I shouldn't say
Was
that.
it?
There may be some. I'm not sure whether there's some leeway within departments. I suspect there is, but commissioner salaries are set by statute.
And when they set up MNsure, do they put anything in there that says if it's a raging dumpster fire, the people in charge shouldn't get paid more?
No bonuses.
Yeah,
they forgot to do that apparently.
Because bonuses usually you get those when you do better
right.
than expected. Yeah,
correct.
So in your term as governor, that'd be 2018 to 2022. I don't do math often. Can we expect this kind of shenanigans?
Absolutely not. And
there you go. He's running for governor. You heard it here first.
I have not said I'm running for governor, but thank you for asking.
Are you thinking about it? You got statewide AIM ID?
Yeah, I am thinking about it.
You've got a little experience running statewide now.
No, I would love to run again. I mean, I'll be more honest than a lot of these guys are being right now. I would love to run for governor. I just don't know. I'm not sure I will, and I don't know if it's the right time. And I got to make sure my family is willing to do that again. Not that it was a bad experience, but it changes your life for a period of time. And it also
changes it negatively.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes it harder from a family standpoint, certainly. And it matters to me somewhat the names that are popping up on the Republican side. There are a couple, I'm not going to share any names, but there are a couple of folks who I think would be a really strong candidates. And I don't know that I'd be a stronger candidate than they would. And if it looks like they're certain to run, I would be less likely to. And then there are others who I think I'd be a much stronger candidate.
You get points for the candid, honest answer, saying that you are thinking about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He may say that he's a candidate.
Because a lot of people would say, oh, it's way too early for that, and then pivot right into a campaign speech.
Well, right. I mean, there's a bunch of people who are already kind of running, and I get it. Some people have to wait till the end of if you're in the legislature, you kind of should wait till the end of session, and you need to do some planning ahead of time to make it work. So I don't fault anyone for that. But that's where I am.
A listener texted me today with this thought, and I think they're right, but I'll ask you. If somebody announces this year, 2016, can they take advantage of raising and spending money under the 2016 limits and get in a little early?
You could,
deadline's end of the month? So you're going to have to run for office.
So this is why Murphy and Coleman have gotten in December?
Yeah.
Yes, because, when they changed, the old rules said in non-election years, you get to raise a quarter of what the limits were in election year. The new way, when they changed it, which was right in the middle of the campaign when I was running last time, they changed it to say you can raise $4,000 a person over any 4-year period.
Okay.
And so I am guessing that they could, the people who are in right now could raise $4,000 a person, and then January 1st get another $4,000 from those same people.
Wow.
Then couldn't go back to them for 4 years.
Right.
Well,
after that, why? You got the money. Never talk to those people again.
Right.
What do you do after you get the money?
Thank you.
Take the money and run.
Oh, you take the money?
You take the money and run for governor.
This is why I don't win when I run. There you go, Ken. I think you were right. That was from Ken.
Aw.
All right. trying to see if there's any more corruption here. Well,
Oh, I'm sure
there
is.
is. We'll just,
But
I'll keep scrolling.
Jeff only gets only a mere few column inches to express this corruption.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Hennepin County Commissioner
Yeah,
Jeff
thank you,
Johnson.
guys.
Great to see you again.
Good
Yeah,
luck
same
if
here.
you choose to run, but
you.
and well, you know what? Good luck even if you don't choose to run.
Thank
Just
you.
I want good things for you. Kate, zip it.
Yes.
Thank you for the eggnog. I just now realized